viewers, it is 6 p.m. by our studio's clock. We begin with the news in the English language. Now are the headlines. Pa Achidi Achu, former Prime Minister of Cameroon, embarks on his final journey to Santa in the northwest region of Cameroon. A tribute ceremony widely attended by government ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, family members and friends took place this morning at the Wada Sports Complex here in Yaoundé. Homage has been paid to late Honorable Yetna Rosette Marinette, member of the National Assembly who died in Douala last May 24th after a brief illness. The ceremony took place at the Yaoundé Conference Hall this July 2nd. Cameroon has, together with the rest of the world, joined the globe to celebrate the International Archive Day under the theme Empowering Diplomatic Archives. Objective of a 2-day seminar at MINREX to encourage professional innovators to jealously preserve diplomatic archives. We have more in some time to come. You're welcome back. This is the English Prime News of Akamdi's television. We begin with a sad note where government officials, members of the diplomatic corps, family members and friends have all gathered this morning at the Yaoundé Conference Center to pay homage to late Pa Achidi Achu, that is the former Prime Minister of Cameroon, who died in Washington, D.C. on May 4th after a prolonged illness. Our reporter, Tabby Clarkson, was present and gives us more on what took place at the conference center this morning. Let's listen to him.
Good afternoon and welcome to the Yaoundé Multi-Sports Purpose Complex, where we are witnessing this tribute that is being paid again to the former Prime Minister. They call him Simon Achidi Achu, the man of politics. Najangi, you scratch my back, I scratch your back. Of course, men and women, young and old, poor and rich, they have come from all the nooks and crannies of the four corners of the republic and even out of the country. They have come to pay their tribute, and amongst them is veteran journalist. They call him, of course, Emmanuel Jakai. So tell us, Emmanuel Jakai, the legacy that Simon Achidi Achu is living today.
Well, this is a great statesman who is living the scene today. He was, of course, the first Anglophone to be a Minister of Justice in this country, and instituted the anti-prostitution law, which other Anglophones used to sabotage him for Egypt to take him out of the federal government at the time. But then he stayed on and went back to his farm and came back very powerfully in 1992 with multipartyism in Cameroon and became the first Anglophone Prime Minister of the New Deal government. And he did so for 4 years. I still find in him today, he may be gone physically, but spiritually he lives with us. Because the lakeside residence was there for the Prime Minister became the people's house. We went there as journalists from CRTV. We made a habit on Tuesdays and Fridays to stop by there after our English-speaking newscasts on radio and television, and you just receive us say, "When I go chop, when I go for table, we'll eat whatever is there, I'll show what, and then drink palm wine and then discuss with him."
It's true that if we want to talk past Simon Achidi Achu today, we cannot end.
Yes.
We cannot, and we say thank you, Emmanuel Jakai. It's a real tribute that is being paid to a man that has done much good to Cameroon, Pierre Bernard.
We wish a safe journey to all members who will be traveling to the northwest region of the country to bury our late former Prime Minister, Pa Achidi Achu. We continue still with this note where members of the National Assembly, family members and friends all gathered today at the Yaoundé Conference Center to pay their last homage to Honorable Yetna Marinette, a member of the National Assembly who died in Douala on May 24th after a brief illness. In the following report, we'll be getting to know more of Marinette, who died last May. Let's listen. Members of the National Assembly, government officials, friends and family members have gathered to pay homage to Honorable Yetna Rosette Marinette Epus Mbele, born in 1965 and a member of the National Assembly, who died on May 24th in Douala after a brief illness. Honorable Marinette, fondly called by her close colleagues and friends, was a mother and a very friendly woman. After validating her mandate, she was elected as deputy for the CPDM party during the twin legislative and municipal elections last February 9, 2020 for the Sanaga Maritime Division in the Littoral region. After validating her mandate, the Honorable Marinette was also elected during the elections as deputy and as a member of the educational and professional sector of the youth. The Honorable was highly respected for her dynamism, her organizational spirit, and frankness when faced with political, economic, and societal issues plaguing the country. Her passion for education was very much admired, and more especially in poetry, as she was a talented artist. She was always outstanding in carrying out her duties in a responsible way, as her desire was to see that the government and deputies work in synergy for the prosperity of our great nation, Cameroon, in strict respect of the law. Always active in bringing forth positive propositions, was very much applauded by all who crossed her path. She will always be remembered as a pillar stone to the Commission, as a mother with a motherly heart. Cameroon has lost a great woman. She leaves behind her family, friends, colleagues, and the entire nation to mourn her. Wake keep follows this evening at Edeya CPDM Hall, and burial follows tomorrow, June 3rd, at the family compound. May her gentle soul rest in peace. May her gentle soul rest in peace. We move over to something very interesting, where Cameroon has joined the international community to commemorate the World Archive Day. As part of the activities to commemorate this day, a two-day seminar was held at the Ministry of External Relations to encourage professional innovations. Our reporter Ruth Fonyong took part in the seminar and compiled this report for us.
The International Archives Week is a week dedicated to showcasing how archives and records management, as well as the archival profession at large, strengthens transparency and accountability. In this effect, the Ministry of External Relations held a two-day seminar for heads of archives and staff in charge of diplomatic archives.
I first of all want to let you know that we are in the Ministry of External Relations, and the management of diplomatic archives is actually done by the staff of the ministry itself.
Before now, several people working in the archives department of the Ministry of External Relations were not really trained in that aspect.
Here in the ministry, we do not have trained archivists, or let me say people who have been trained professionally to manage archives. So now within the ministry, within the framework of the ministry, during this week of International Archives, the ministry has decided to organize a seminar through which they can help to drill the staff on how to better manage the archives of the department.
Networking and collaboration can further promote greater diversity and inclusiveness in the management of archives. This seminar is for the benefit of both bureau heads in charge of ministries' archives and staff in charge of diplomatic archives.
I must testify that I have learned a lot of things, because before this time I've never managed archives anywhere, and this was an opportunity for me to gain practically basic notions on archives, to learn how archives can be organized, especially in my department. So generally, all in one, I can say I've really learned a lot of things. I have drilled myself actually in what archives is all about. As you heard during the seminar, there are projects on that, and I think it will be coming up soon. So probably we are also going to maybe organize a seminar to drill us on that. And in fact, it's going to be a wonderful thing, because we are living in a digital era.
The diplomatic archives of Cameroon are grouped into 32 thematic areas, classified in a directory so as to enable easier search, dissemination, and the inventory of diplomatic archives. Participants say they are totally satisfied with the outcome of the 2 days intensive training on archiving.
Canada celebrated Canada's Day on July 1st, 2021. The efforts to commemorate these activities with Canadians in Cameroon, the Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, granted audience to the Canadians ambassador to Cameroon at the Ministry of External Relations. Let's have more details in the following report. The Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, has granted audience to the Canadian ambassador to Cameroon as part of the activities to celebrate Canada's National Day, a memorable day to revisit the long relationship ties between the two countries. Unfortunately, celebrations will be timid due to the outbreak of the deadly coronavirus outbreak that is claiming more lives in the country.
You know, Canada is taking a very low-profile approach to Canada Day this year, and that's partly because of the pandemic and partly because of recent developments in Canada with the former Indian residential schools, and where we have decided that it should be a day of reflection more than a day of celebration.
The Canadian ambassador expressed a joy as the Minister of External Relations received him. A very good and warm relationship that demonstrates good ties.
The bridge in Akonolingo, which we recently, I shouldn't say discovered, but I should say rediscovered, and that was built in 1971, still standing, still being used. And by coincidence, yesterday there were two Canadian sisters who have worked in Cameroon for the last 50 years, who returned to Canada.
The ambassador of Canada recalls that in 1971, 50 years ago, a bridge was built in Akonolinga in the central region of Cameroon and is still being used by the inhabitants of that part of the country. The audience that was granted lasted for almost an hour, a sign of better realizations and good relationship ties between Cameroon and Canada. The Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, has also granted another audience to the South Korean ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Jagan Kim, at the Ministry of External Relations. Their discussion centered on how to boost the Cameroon's agricultural and political sector. Let's have details in the following report. Evaluating cooperation ties between Cameroon and South Korea, the focal point of discussion during an audience granted by the Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, to the South Korean ambassador to Cameroon, His Excellency Jagan Kim, at the Ministry of External Relations, the minister and the ambassador centered their discussions on how to boost the Cameroon's economy, especially in the agricultural and political sector. This initiative falls in line with His Excellency President Paul Biya's objective to make Cameroon an emergent country by 2035. The ambassador of South Korea expressed joy and appreciation for the opportunity that the Cameroon government is giving to his country, South Korea, to carry out diplomatic missions. At the end of the almost 40 minutes audience granted by the Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, to the South Korean ambassador, His Excellency Jagan Kim, both expressed a visual sign of good relationship ties that exist between the two countries. A timely meeting that comes to strengthen the over 60 years diplomatic relationship between Cameroon and South Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining, you're watching the 6 p.m. Prime News of ACAMDIS television from the political capital, Yaoundé. Now we come back to the late Pa Achidi Achu, the former Prime Minister who died on May 4th in Washington, D.C. after a prolonged illness. The ceremony to pay him homage took place at the Wada Sports Complex this morning. But this time around in the evening, the ceremony that took place there, our reporter Tabby Clarkson is present and then gives us details of what is actually taking place at this moment. Let's listen.
Real moments of emotions as many came to say bye-bye to Pa Simon Achidi Achu this morning at the Wada Sports Complex in Yaoundé. Religious leaders, traditional leaders, amongst them the Sultan of the Bamun land, Ibrahim Bombonjoya. Government ministers, they came to either pay tribute to a friend or a boss.
The whole Cameroon cries for his beloved Prime Minister, he who was aware of the problems of the Cameroonian people, he who was faithful to his party, the CPDM, he who was mindful to the Cameroon unity and loyal to his President, His Excellency Paul Biya.
No words can define the type of relationship we have had. We love you, but God loves you more. Thank you for being a model, our model. Thank you for the inspiration for many generations. Thank you for your patriotism and love. Thank you for your humility.
Family relatives, friends, people of all walks of life came to pay their last respect to a man, to a prime minister considered to be a blessing to this nation, this beautiful nation called Cameroon.
He was, of course, the first Anglophone to be a Minister of Justice in this country and instituted the anti-prostitution law, which other Anglophones used to sabotage him for able to take him out of the federal government at the time. But then he stayed on and went back to his farm and came back very powerfully in 1992 with multipartyism in Cameroon and became the first Anglophone Prime Minister of the New Deal government.
It was a very fulfilled life. We want to thank the President of the Republic and Head of State, His Excellency Mr. Paul Biya, for his inestimable support and care to the Right Honorable Simon Achidi-Achu.
The man of politics, Najangi, you scratch my back, I scratch your back, will always be remembered for his humility and generosity. Pa Simon Achidi-Achu will be laid to rest this Saturday in his native land of Santa at the age of 87.
We now move over to something else, which is nothing but sports. The Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. John Goody, handed over the national flag to Cameroonian athletes that will be representing the national colors at the Olympic Sports Games to take place in Tokyo. Our reporter, Tabi Klassen, tells us more in the following report.
Prime Minister Joseph John Nguti this morning at the Cameroon's National Olympic and Sports Committee in Yaoundé bid farewell to the delegation of athletes to represent the national colors in the upcoming Olympic Games in Tokyo. Handing over the national flag to an athlete is a sign to say the government and the people of Cameroon are behind the athletes, and of course their expectations are very, very much high.
I am happy for this qualification. I know everything will be easy, but I am a lion, so I am happy for everything, and I hope everything will be okay there. Thank you for everything too.
Cameroon will be represented in the Olympic Games by 12 athletes in 7 disciplines, and there is hope for a medal.
Many boxers are qualified there, and they work hard. We prepare ourselves by external camp, but during a few days we are in internal camp, and I think that our boxers had the level of performance that they had in Senegal, Dakar, during the qualification, we have a bit of chance to have a medal there, but I don't know the color.
This year's Olympic Games in Tokyo will run from the 23rd of July to the 8th of August. And by the time the competition ends, we want to believe that Cameroon will be coming back home with some medals.
We now move out of the country precisely to Germany, where Germany has issued what appears to be the strongest recommendation of mixed COVID-19 vaccines. Results shows that a mixed combination of COVID-19 vaccines appears to be superior. Geraldine Nasi tells us more in the following report.
Germany has issued what appeared to be the strongest recommendation anywhere for the mixing of COVID-19 vaccines on efficacy grounds. The German Standing Committee on Vaccination said on Thursday that people who received the first dose of Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine should get an mRNA vaccine as their second dose regardless of their age. The German Chancellor Angela Merkel helped pave the way for mixed vaccine use when she received the Moderna shot in June as her second dose following the first dose of AstraZeneca. Current study results show that the immune response generated after mixed dose vaccination came out clearly superior. China is building a sprawling network of what appear to be intercontinental ballistic missile silos in its western desert that analysts say could change the equation for U.S. military planners in Asia. The likely missile field comprising 120 silos that could potentially house weapons capable of reaching the United States mainland was documented by researchers at the James Martin Center for Non-Proliferation Studies using satellite imagery supplied by commercial satellite company Planet Labs. In Baghdad, hundreds of Iraqis protested over worsening power and water cuts as temperatures exceed 50 degrees Celsius in some parts of Iraq. Power went out completely across most of the country's provinces before dawn. The sky over Baghdad, where residents enjoy better supply than poorer southern part of Iraq, is clouded with smoke after sunrise at homes than their diesel-fueled generators for much longer periods than usual. Iraq blamed the government, who relies on energy imports from Iran and which they say has failed the developed Iraq's own grid to serve its population. Local media reports say Iraq's electricity minister has resigned under pressure after the power crisis.
That report presented to us by Geraldine Nasi brings us to the end of our English Prime News of Akamdis Television. Here are the headlines. Pa Achidi Achu, former Prime Minister of Cameroon, embarks on his final journey to Santa in the northwest region of Cameroon. A tribute ceremony widely attended by government ministers, members of the diplomatic corps, family members and friends took place this morning at the Water Sports Complex here in Yaoundé. Homage has been paid to the late Honorable Ngo Yetna Rosette Marinette, member of the National Assembly, who died in Douala last May 24th after a brief illness. The ceremony took place at the Yaoundé Conference Hall this July 2nd. Cameroon has, together with the rest of the world, joined the globe to celebrate the International Archive Week under the theme Empowering Diplomatic Archives. Objective of a two-day seminar at the Ministry of External Relations to encourage professional innovators to jealously preserve diplomatic archives. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of our news. Do not go away. At 8 p.m. Desiree Bonnet will come in with news in the French language. Have a blessed weekend.